The alien commander's words dripped like acid through the translator. Your relics of war amuse us. That spinning barrel of rust? Surely it belongs in a museum. His troops laughed with metallic echoes, their armor glinting under the dawn light. The villagers of Fairbridge did not laugh. They stood with clenched fists, their silence a brittle shield. The barn at the edge of the square creaked in the wind, as if it, too, held its breath. Inside lay the thing the aliens mocked, the relic they did not understand. Captain Elias Cross leaned on his cane, his scarred face unreadable, eyes shadowed by years of exile from both war and home. He was not young, not admired, not trusted. The children whispered his medals were fakes. The gossips claimed he had deserted in battle, and the elders dismissed him as broken. His solitude on the town's edge was a punishment he never contested. Only Mara, the mechanic's daughter, dared approach his silence. She brought him bread, repaired his leaking roof, and sometimes forced him into words. She was stubborn where others turned away, her faith in him defiant, her hands always smudged with grease and dust. Elias carried with him a shadow of a soldier's pride. That shadow grew heavier when he thought of the barn, where his grandfather's Gatling gun slept beneath dusty tarps. He oiled it weakly with the devotion of a priest tending relics, muttering to it as though it could still answer. The townsfolk mocked him for it, their laughter louder than the crickets on summer nights. Cross and his rusted toy, they sneered. He never replied. He knew laughter often preceded regret. The alien occupation deepened quickly. Soldiers in liquid armor boots trampled harvest fields, seized grain, and weighed humans like livestock. They called their cruelty pacification, but it felt more like humiliation dressed in ceremony. At first the villagers bowed their heads. Resistance meant ruin, and despair is a heavy silence. But Elias could not watch forever. His porch became a place of arguments as Mara confronted him night after night. You fought before, she said, voice shaking. You know what we're facing. I know exactly what we're facing, he murmured, sipping from a chipped mug. And I know how it ends. With surrender, she demanded. With slaughter, he replied. The stars above were cold witnesses to his certainty. Then let's at least choose our way of dying. Her words cut deeper than any blade, because they rang with truth. For a long moment he said nothing, staring at the cane that had replaced his rifle. Then his jaw set, his fingers curled into fists. He looked at the barn, at the thing that had outlived empires. If we fire, he whispered, there's no turning back. Her hand found his. Then we don't turn back. The next night, the barn was filled with villagers. They stood around the Gatling as if around an altar, touching the iron body with awe and doubt. Old man Harrow spat on the ground. You're mad, Elias. That relic belongs in a junkyard. Elias's voice snapped like a whip. It belongs on the field. The arguments raged until dawn, voices breaking under fear and desperation. Some said to flee. Some said to kneel. But when the sun rose, they found themselves bound to Elias's plan. They would bait the aliens, gather in the square, and when mockery reached its peak, the relic would speak. If they were to die, it would not be silent. That night Mara found him alone in the barn, hands trembling as he checked the Gatling's bolts. The gun gleamed faintly in lantern light, its barrel long and hungry. He stared at it as if staring into his own grave. They'll die, he muttered, voice breaking. The children, the elders, if this fails, their blood is mine. She stood close, unafraid, her hand steady on a scarred one. If we do nothing, they die anyway. He looked at her, searching for weakness, and found only fire. Slowly, a thin smile cracked his weathered face. God help us, he said, almost laughing. The world ends with a crank handle. The morning came heavy with fog, the kind that muffled even birdsong. Alien boots clanged against stone as troops filled the square. Their commander raised his staff, symbols glowing faintly, arrogance in every line of his posture. The villagers stood barehanded, eyes cast down, fear pressing on their spines. Mara's hand was steady on Elias's shoulder as he stepped forward from the barn, cane clacking against the stones. The commander's voice cut through the mist. Bring forth your champion, or bring forth your surrender. He gestured at the cover machine behind Elias. Your relic? Show it. We permit one demonstration before disposal. The aliens laughed again, cruel and echoing, their breath hissing in metallic tones. Their laughter spilled into the fog, hollow and endless. The villagers stood silent, praying, trembling. Elias reached for the tarp and pulled it away. The Gatling stood revealed, its iron body scarred but proud, teeth gleaming faintly in the half-light. His hand rested on the crank with reverence. This relic fed empires, he said, voice low but carrying. It carved history in thunder. Let's see if you still laugh. Gasps rippled through the villagers. The alien sneered. The commander tilted his head, unimpressed. Turn your wheel, relic keeper. Amuse us. Elias's eyes narrowed. His hands, scarred and shaking, steadied as he touched the grip. The cane fell clattering behind him. His body bent forward. Soldier once more. Mara's voice reached him, a whisper only he could hear. We don't turn back. His jaw clenched. He began to turn. The first rotation groaned. The barrel whined. The square shuddered with thunder. The Gatling roared to life, and the air filled with smoke and fire. Elias leaned into the crank, his jaw locked, his eyes fierce. The machine spat lead like a vengeful storm, shredding the air, tearing through silvered armor. Alien laughter curdled into shrieks. The first ranks collapsed before they understood. Their bodies hit the cobblestones with dull, final thuds, and the fog thickened with smoke. The villagers, pressed to the edges, gasped, then cried out in awe. The relic was no relic. It was a beast reborn. Elias's limp vanished in motion, his body moving with muscle memory long buried but never lost. He cranked harder, sweat pouring down his scarred face. Every bullet was a heartbeat. Every scream a memory answered. Mara dashed forward with buckets, dousing the barrel when it smoked, steam hissing into the chaos. Her face was streaked with soot, but her hands never faltered. Together they looked like mismatched parts of one living weapon, soldier and mechanic, grit and fire. The alien commander staggered backward, disbelief twisting his features. Impossible. That weapon is primitive. His voice cracked with more fear than rage. He raised his staff, shouting orders. Shield bearers rushed the front, interlocking barriers of shimmering light. The Gatling tore into them, sparks flying, shields cracking, lines crumbling under relentless iron rain. Villagers who had cowered now surged. Some hurled stones, others wielded farming tools. Even children screamed defiance, voices cutting through the din. The square became a storm of fury, humans standing not as prey but as a pack that remembered teeth. The Gatling's roar made them bold. Elias's voice bellowed over the fire. Hold nothing back. But iron has limits. After minutes of relentless fury, the gun jammed. The barrel froze with a sickening click. Its growl strangled into silence. The sudden quiet rang louder than thunder. For a heartbeat, the world held still. Then alien laughter returned, cruel and triumphant. Elias cursed, hands shaking as he reached for the mechanism. The villagers' cheers faltered into cries of panic. The commander sneered. Your relic fails, just as you fail. His troops advanced again, weapons humming, steps pounding like a drumbeat of doom. But Mara's voice cut sharp through the chaos. He's not finished. She threw herself beside Elias, grabbing tools, her hands moving as if the Gatling were a puzzle she was born to solve. Elias's fingers bled as he worked, teeth clenched, every motion desperate. For a breathless eternity, the world narrowed to gears, bolts, and willpower. Then, with a metallic scream, the gun shuddered alive. The barrel spun, coughing fire once more, and the square erupted in horror and fury. The alien advance faltered mid-step, eyes wide, too slow to retreat. Lead tore through flesh and shield alike, mowing down the arrogant as they realized too late that old weapons do not die easily. Elias roared as if every buried grief and rage found its voice. You want relics? Here's your relic. The Gatling responded like thunder given form, spitting vengeance faster than breath. Mara doused again and again, her arms aching, her clothes soaked, her resolve unshaken. Bodies piled, black blood spreading across stone. The commander tried to rally, but fear spread faster than orders. His voice cracked, his commands lost beneath the roar. Troops stumbled, trampled each other, broke ranks, fled. The Gatling did not relent until the square itself was littered with silence. At last, the gun clicked empty, its voice gone, its chamber dry. Smoke curled into the morning, thick and suffocating. Elias sagged, his arms trembling, his chest heaving. He staggered back, barely catching himself before he collapsed entirely. Mara caught his shoulder, steadying him. Her face, smeared with soot, held a strange mixture of terror and awe. The villagers stood in stunned quiet. Around them lay the unthinkable, an alien company, shattered by one old gun and one broken soldier. The whispers began soft, then louder. "We won. They're dead." Cross did it. For the first time, the gossip was not mockery, but reverence. Old man Harrow stumbled forward, his eyes wide, his mouth trembling. He looked at Elias with something like shame. "By God, you saved us." The villagers echoed, murmuring gratitude, some kneeling to touch Elias's soot-streaked hands. The man they had scorned was now the pillar that held their world. But Elias's eyes were dark, his voice heavy. "Don't thank me yet." He gestured to the horizon, where alien ships shimmered faintly like storm clouds waiting. "They will come again, and stronger." The words chilled the crowd. Hope flickered like a candle in wind. Children cried again, and men muttered fears. But Mara's voice rose above them, clear and steady. "Let them come. If one relic can break them, then we'll find more. We'll make more. We'll stand again." Her conviction spread like fire through dry grass. Heads lifted, spines straightened. Hope caught. Elias looked at her, weary but alive. His mouth curved into the faintest smile, the kind he hadn't worn in years. "Maybe you're right," he whispered. He wiped soot from his face, leaving streaks of war paint unintentional but fitting. The square smelled of iron and smoke, of burnt oil and alien blood. Silence clung to the villagers, as if words might shatter the fragile spell of survival. The Gatling stood blackened, its barrel glowing faintly red, like the ember of a dying forge. Elias Cross leaned against it, his chest heaving, his hands trembling, his cane forgotten where it had fallen. Around him lay bodies of creatures that had mocked, sneered, laughed, now twisted, broken, and silent. The villagers had seen miracles, and miracles had a cost. Mara knelt at his side, her hands streaked with soot, her eyes searching his face. "Breathe," she whispered, as if the world depended on it. He coughed, a sharp rasp that proved he was still alive. Relief broke through her exhaustion, and she let her forehead rest briefly against his shoulder. For a moment, just a moment, the war paused. But peace is a fragile illusion. Scouts ran in from the hills, their eyes wide with dread. "Ships," one stammered. "More ships. They're circling." The word struck harder than gunfire. Villagers muttered, their fragile courage crumbling under the weight of inevitability. The bodies at their feet were proof of victory, but also bait for vengeance. Elias straightened slowly, leaning against a Gatling, as if it lent him spine. His voice carried despite the rasp. "They'll come. Of course they will. And when they do, they'll bring more than laughter." His eyes swept across the crowd, faces smeared with ash, eyes wide with fear. He felt their panic, their desperation, the ache of people who wanted to believe but fear believing too much. "But today," he continued, "we gave them something they never expected. We gave them fear. And fear makes even the mighty hesitate." The villagers shifted uneasily, caught between despair and defiance. Old man Harrow stepped forward, wringing his cap. "Elias, one relic won't save us twice. What happens when the ships open fire from the sky?" His voice cracked, echoing the dread everyone carried. Mara rose, her hands fisted, her voice clear as steel. "Then we don't fight them the same way. We fight them with more. We fight them with everything. If this relic stood, then others can too. If one broken soldier turned the tide, then all of us together can do more than just survive. We can resist." Her words spread to the crowd like kindling, catching fire. A murmur rose, hesitant at first, then bolder. They had seen death, yes, but they had also seen victory. For the first time since the sky had burned, they believed. Elias studied Mara, a strange warmth behind his weary eyes. He saw in her the fire he thought long gone from himself. She spoke not with the weight of memory, but with the hunger of youth, and that hunger was contagious. He gave a slow nod. Then we begin. Tonight. The villagers worked through the dark hours. Tools clanged, fires sparked, whispers spread. They gathered every relic, every fragment of iron, every weapon buried in barns and attics. Some dragged out hunting rifles. Others sharpened scythes. A few brought rusted cannons left as decoration from forgotten wars. Mara organized teams, her hands flying, her voice sharp, her determination unyielding. Elias oversaw the Gatling's repairs. Every bolt and gear touched with reverence. The machine was no longer a secret. It was the heart of their defiance. By dawn, Fairbridge was transformed. Banners of cloth hung across windows. Fires smoldered in barrels. Villagers stood armed with tools of desperation turned weapons of necessity. They were no army, but they were no longer prey either. Children carried stones. Women held rifles. Men strapped blades of poles. It was ugly, it was fragile, but it was human. The alien reinforcements arrived as the sun rose, their ships casting shadows like storm clouds over the valley. Their engines rumbled like thunder, their weapons gleaming with cold fire. The villagers gathered in the square once more, the Gatling at the center, Elias at its side, Mara beside him. The air was heavy with dread, yet their spines were straight, their eyes unbroken. The alien commander who emerged was taller, cloaked in armor that shimmered with cruel elegance. His voice boomed through amplifiers, dripping disdain. You slaughter my soldiers with tricks and toys. You defied the will of the Dominion. Now you will be erased. Your relic will rust in silence. Your children will vanish into dark, and your names will be dust. The villagers trembled, but Elias stepped forward, leaning on a Gatling, his cane once more forgotten. His voice cut across the square like a blade. You think we're afraid of dust? Dust is where we come from. Dust is where we'll return. But between the two, we fight. His eyes locked with the commander's, cold and unblinking. We're not toys. We're not relics. We're human, and we don't finish easy. The Gatling's barrel turned, a low groan rising. Villagers raised their makeshift weapons, their voices swelling into a roar that met the commander's threat with defiance. The sky shimmered with the glow of alien weapons charging. For one terrible, beautiful instant, the world hung between annihilation and legend. Then the Gatling roared again. Smoke and fire split the dawn. The villagers surged like a tide, stones and blades and bullets crashing into armored ranks. The aliens, arrogant in their numbers, found themselves swallowed in chaos. The Gatling mowed down lines, villagers swarmed stragglers. The square became a storm of noise and fury. Elias cranked until his arms burned, until his breath came ragged, until the Gatling sang its ancient song at the edge of breaking. Mara moved like lightning, feeding water, fixing jams, shouting orders. Her voice rallied where Elias's faltered, and together they were one rhythm. Iron and fire, soldier and builder, past and future. The alien commander pressed forward, his weapon blazing arcs of searing light. Villagers fell, screams piercing the din. The Gatling turned, spitting lead, sparks showering as it struck his shimmering shield. The commander staggered but pressed on, hatred etched in every movement. Elias's eyes narrowed, his hands tightening. He cranked harder, faster, until the barrel glowed white, until the Gatling howled louder than the commander's roar. The shield cracked. The alien stumbled. A final volley tore through, and his body fell with a crash that shook the square. For a moment, silence returned. The villagers froze, eyes wide, hearts pounding. Then the aliens broke. Without their leader, panic consumed them. They fled to their ships, engines screaming, shadows lifting. The sky cleared, leaving only smoke and silence behind. The villagers collapsed to their knees, sobbing, laughing, clinging to each other. They had survived. They had resisted. They had won, not just a battle, but a truth. Elias staggered back, collapsing beside the Gatling, his chest heaving. Mara caught him. tears streaking her soot-stained face. "You did it," she whispered. His eyes opened, weary but alive. He shook his head faintly. "We did it." The Gatling barrel cracked. Smoke curling from his wounds stood silent now. A relic still, but no longer mocked. It was legend, and so was Fairbridge. And you, who carry this story in your heart, know this. Strength is not in the shine of weapons, nor in the numbers of armies, nor in the arrogance of those who believe themselves eternal. Strength lives in the hands that refuse to release the crank, in the voices that refuse silence, in the people who rise even when told they are relics. Never mistake scars for weakness, or rust for uselessness. For when the world laughs at you, remember Fairbridge, remember the Gatling, and turn the handle until the laughter ends.